What is up, guys? Randomonium here, and today we're going to be talking about battle mages. This video is a follow-up of my how to find your ideal playstyle, class, and subclass video, so if you haven't watched that one yet, I highly recommend it. I already posted a video about battle mages that covers Gangplank, Rumble, Swain, Fiddlesticks, Aurelion Sol, Cassiopeia, Karthus, Rise, Vladimir, and Malzahar. However, Riot restructured the classes during the middle of the season and added Anivia, Taliyah, and Viktor to the battle mage class, so in this video we'll be covering those champions. Also, I want to give a very special thank you to all the battle mage mains who helped me with this video. I've left a link to all of their subreddits in the video description below. Battle mages are one of the most diverse and unique classes in the game, so it's very hard to define what makes a battle mage a battle mage. In general, battle mages are medium-range champions that primarily rely on their spells to deal damage. While they may have some movement speed boosts, generally they have a very low ability to gap close or escape, and are some of the most common users of the Ghost Summer spell. Battle mages also have some form of survivability, whether it be massive sustain, low cooldown shields, a revival mechanic, crowd control immunity or reduction, or powerful crowd control of their own. Finally, and most importantly, battle mages are high DPS champions, either from AoE abilities, damage over time abilities, or very low cooldown spammable spells. In general, battle mages can be broken into three groups: tanky, focused, and AoE. The three battle mages we'll be talking about today are all AoE battle mages. Anivia, Taliyah, and Viktor also have some burst mage tendencies when they combo their spells, so some people might identify them more as burst mages rather than battle mages. They are all great examples of how champion classes aren't clear-cut boxes, but rather spectrums, where the edges are blurred on where one class ends and another begins. Anivia, Taliyah, and Viktor are all most commonly played in mid lane thanks to their strong wave clear. For skill order, runes, masteries, and item builds, I am only showing the most popular builds in Platinum and above games. All of these champions have multiple options when it comes to runes, masteries, and items, so if you want a much more detailed analysis of when you should go a certain build, please check out each champion's subreddit.
1,000 lives will I give for the Freljord.
Anivia, the Cryo Phoenix. Anivia is one of the original 40 champions, and some would argue one of the most well-designed champions in the game. Compared to other champions, Anivia has received very few buffs or nerfs, and only minor tweaks to her kit in over her 7 seasons on the Rift. And through this time, she was always hovered on the edge of meta, being a potent pocket pick for people who know how to play her, without ever becoming so powerful that she was must-pick or ban. Anivia is the true control mage of League of Legends, able to block off massive amounts of terrain with her abilities. No other champion can shape the battlefield like she can, and very few champions can punish mispositioning as well as her. Anivia can turn the map against her opponents by combining natural terrain with her abilities to force enemies into a situation where there is no good choice, only bad options that they are forced to choose between. Anivia has very weak wave clear pre-level 6. Her auto attack animation is one of the longest in the game, so it can be very tricky to last hit with her. And since Anivia is very immobile, she usually needs to hold her Q to ward off potential ganks. However, once Anivia hits level 6, her wave clear goes through the roof with her ultimate. Anivia's ultimate is one of the best wave clear tools in the game, since she can keep it active as long as she wants. However, Anivia's ultimate also has a high mana per second cost, and you can completely drain her mana pool if you leave it on for too long, which is why you see Anivia's frequently buying mana items. When champions buy mana items, they are effectively delaying their power spike since they are investing their gold into mana, a non-combat stat, rather than AP or health, which are combat stats. This is why Anivia is commonly called a scaling champion and a late-game nightmare. In the late game, Anivia is near impossible to siege against while being a potent sieger herself. She can instantly clear minion waves and use her ultimate to zone enemies off of towers. If enemies move forward to clear minion waves, Anivia can use her W and her Q to trap them out of position, allowing her team to execute easy dives. Where Anivia struggles is when the enemy teams can flank her from multiple directions, or if they have movement abilities that allow them to bypass her ultimate or her W. Because Anivia is very immobile and squishy, this makes her very susceptible to divers, assassins, and some skirmishers, especially when her passive is down. In order to become a good Anivia player, you need to learn how to last hit with her auto attacks, and also when to use her QE combo. To become a great Anivia player, you need to make full use of her W, her ultimate, and her passive. Great Anivia players can use her W to trap enemies against walls for up to 5 seconds. Additionally, if your opponent enters a movement command and you use your W to block their direction of movement, you can cause your opponent to move in a direction that they didn't want to go, allowing you to cause them to walk into your ultimate or your Q. Bad Anivia players will use her passive as a free guardian angel to save themselves when they make a mistake. Great Anivia players will use her passive to bait enemies into making mistakes themselves and overextending to try and get a kill on Anivia. Anivia is all about patience and control. She is weak early, but scales extremely well. In the wrong hands, it's extremely easy to miss her abilities, or even screw your team with a poorly placed wall. However, in the hands of a master, it can feel near impossible to reach her or punish her in any way.
Every pebble holds infinite potential.
Taliyah, the Stoneweaver. If you're a fan of Avatar, and you've always wanted to be an earthbender, then Taliyah is probably the perfect champion for you. Taliyah is a crazy combination of kiting, control, utility, zoning, roaming, and catch potential, all packaged into an unsuspecting champion with a pretty scary skill floor and skill ceiling. Taliyah is unlike any champion in the game. Her spells are unique to just her, and her combos are unlike anyone else. Most people who try to pick her up randomly think she's useless, because she doesn't have the raw damage of some other mages. However, an expert Taliyah can feel absolutely untouchable, effortlessly kiting you while dealing massive amounts of damage. Taliyah is an extremely cerebral champion. You need to be thinking several minutes in advance at all times in order to play her effectively. Managing your warped ground is essential to managing minion waves and also giving yourself escape paths for ganks. You constantly need to be looking at the side lanes to see how they are pushing to set up your roams. You also need to predict how your opponents are going to move in order to set them up for your EW combo. Taliyah's primary strengths are roaming and objective control. Very few champions can roam as quickly or effectively to a side lane as Taliyah. Taliyah is also amazing at contesting objectives thanks to her zone control and her ultimate. If an enemy team is trying to take Drake or Baron, you can lock their melee champions into the pit while your team dismantles them from range. Proper timing of your E and W can stifle the engage of many vanguards, divers, and assassins, and a well-timed W can send a key enemy carry into your team for an easy pick. If your team is trying to take Drake, Baron, or a tower, Taliyah can use her ultimate to completely prevent an enemy team from contesting, allowing your team to secure the objective for free. Taliyah is extremely dependent on being accurate with her abilities. If you can't reliably hit opponents with your Q or your W, then Taliyah is going to feel very weak. She's an extremely squishy champion with long cooldowns, so she can be very easily punished if she moves forward to land a combo and misses. While she has the potential to stifle the engage of many champions, if she mistimes her abilities, then she has absolutely no defense against someone who can close the distance against her. Taliyah is all about prediction and outsmarting your enemies. If you are successful, then she can feel near unkillable while dealing massive amounts of damage, and if you aren't, then she will feel extremely frustrating to play.
My opponents need to be upgraded.
Viktor, the Machine Herald. Do you like lasers? Are you a misunderstood genius? Are you on a waiting list to get an iPhone actually installed into your eye? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then Viktor might be the perfect champion for you. Viktor is a very interesting battle mage because all of his damage is periodic rather than pure DPS. This allows talented Viktor players to time his abilities so that all of the periodic damage occurs simultaneously, allowing him to deal a scary amount of burst damage. A lot of this revolves around Q animation canceling and layering your E and your ultimate damage so they all tick at the same time. Viktor has some of the strongest trading in the mid lane, levels 1 through 3. If you're playing Viktor, you need to punish opponents level 1 through 3 because Viktor's mid game is fairly weak until he gets some items under his belt. Another thing that really makes Viktor unique are his back timings. Upgrading his Hex Core is extremely important, but staying in lane until you have 1250 gold is often very difficult. Also, because Viktor sacrifices one item slot for his Hex Core, this means he has to back at more efficient times, since his starting item, boots, and potions typically take up 3 more item slots, and you always want to have an item slot available for vision wards. In the mid game, it is usually best to just farm and play safe with Viktor. Viktor has some of the best wave clear in the game once he upgrades his death ray, which allows him to create constant pressure in the mid lane and hold his tower indefinitely as long as he plays safe. Viktor has very low mobility, and his only crowd control, his W, has a delay, which makes it very hard for him to stop mid-game ganks and roams, which are extremely common. Once Viktor has a chance to scale, he becomes extremely strong. Where Viktor really excels is fighting in choke points. Viktor always wants to engage in choke points or forces enemies to chase him into a choke point. Once in a choke point, Viktor is much more likely to land his W, which can pretty much single-handedly win a team fight. Viktor's W is a 1.5 second AoE stun, which allows him to guarantee both procs of his E damage and at least 1 tick of his ultimate, usually several. That amount of AoE damage is enough to shred through just about anyone who isn't stacking magic resist. Viktor's AoE damage is scary, and he has amazing zoning potential with all of his abilities. His Q also pairs very well with Ghost, which is why you see so many Viktors taking that summoner spell. Viktor overall is just a very well-rounded mage. He may not burst as hard or have reliable CC as some burst mages, and he may not have the tankiness or zone control of some battle mages, but he can do pretty much everything decently. He's a solid pick into pretty much any team composition, and a great champion to pick up if you want a well-rounded mage with scary AoE damage. So which of these battle mages is your favorite? Also, what kind of battle mages do you think Riot should develop in the future? Once again, if you have any questions on any of the battle mages, please leave a comment below and I'll do my best to answer it or point you in the right direction. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more, please give this video a thumbs up and let me know what subclass you want me to do next. And of course, if you've made it this far in the video and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all of my videos. I hope you all have a fantastic day. This is Randomonium, signing off.